Adam, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So this is your driver, huh?
It is, yes.
Were you fit for this?
I was not.
Okay. So Strixon 10.5, but you got to turn down a little bit, 9.5.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just doing that based off ball flight a little bit?
Only.
What did you think, it was a little high or something?
It was a little high for me. I'm
Okay.
a little spinnier overall,
Okay.
and I wanted to open it up a little bit because I fight a hook.
What's your handicap?
I'm a 7.
You're a 7? Okay. And do you like to play a draw or a fade?
I like to play a draw.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would you say with the people you play golf with, you feel like you hit the ball high, medium, or low?
High.
High? Okay. And it looks like we got a UST here, counterbalance. How'd you come about on this shaft?
A friend of mine recommended it, and so I went ahead and I put it in the club myself.
Okay, perfect. And you just, do you know what the swing weight of it is or anything like that?
I don't actually.
Okay.
I don't.
Do you know what a swing weight is?
I do, a little
Okay,
bit,
it's going to be very important to what we do today because swing weight's the balance of the golf club. And so it's in an A, B, C, D or scale. Everything that goes into it, the shaft weight, the grip weight, the length, the head weight, all matters. And so when we find that right golf club, part of what makes it special is a swing weight, because if the head gets lighter and the swing weight gets lighter, the shaft's going to play stiffer and vice versa. So, you know, we're going to pay attention. We're going to go look at some specs after we get hitting some balls and start seeing some numbers. We'll get into that. Okay. So what we're going to do first is we're going to get you in here. We're going to hit your driver. We're going to get some baseline numbers with your driver on the TrackMan. Okay. They're going to show up on the bottom, but I'll put them up on the screen and then I'll take you through it and what it all matters. Okay. If I feel like a shot's really unrepresentable, I'll ask you that, and then if you want, well, I'll say we should probably delete that because it's not good for fitting. But I won't delete it unless I ask you about it. And then we'll just probably do 3 to 4 swings. And then we'll go through the data, and then I'll have some more info from there. Okay?
Sounds good.
So let's just, now the tee goes up and down, however you need it. It will not stay there, so make sure you get the tee just like you like it. And right now, just so you know, I'm naming your driver the Gamer, so we always have that data.
All right.
So take your time and hit the ball. We'll get like probably 4 here. Seem pretty good. Little draw on it.
That's typical right there.
A little spinny though, that's okay. The TrackMan back there is what we use, okay? It's a radar-based device. When you're watching golf on TV and they show the shot tracer, that's what you're getting. Okay. It's really accurate on not only giving us our ball data, but our club data. I'm going to focus a lot on ball data, and club data will just be kind of what causes things, why we need to change things. So the first thing we're looking at is your club head speed. Your club head speed's how fast you swing at it, okay? I'm not here to help you with your club head speed, although if I can speed you up through having something, I will. Otherwise, you need to get a yoga instructor. So the 99 is your club head speed, and there's no good or bad, it's just what you are. But based on how hard you swing, what most golfers don't realize is there's a certain amount of things that should happen from there on out. That's your force in the mass times acceleration, which is force. I mean, that's what it's your acceleration, that's what you're doing. So you're 99, and your ball speed, which is how fast the ball's coming off the face, is 146, okay? So understand that ball speed, which is how fast the ball comes off the face, every mile per hour ball speed you can get, it can be 3 to 5 yards depending on some other variables. And so we're always looking to get as much ball speed as possible. That's what everybody's chasing. Right. The beauty of this number, though, is the USGA and all the governing laws of golf have said how hot a driver can be, okay? So there's a certain amount of ball speeds you should have based off your club head speed. We can actually calculate that because we have a limit on how hot a golf club can be. Okay. So how do we do that? We do it based off a number that the industry likes to call smash factor. It's an efficiency number. It says, if I were to divide your ball speed by your club head speed, I get this ratio. Okay, and based off the governing laws of golf, and then who are the governing laws of making a golf club, and then the best players in the world, and I don't care if it's PGA, LPGA, Senior PGA, they all have different swings, everything, speeds. If they were to come in here with the best driver, their smash factor would be 1.48 or higher. Almost, probably more like 150, but so at 147, your smash factor isn't a lot of what's giving up your distance and control. You're actually doing a very good job of getting your club head speed to produce the ball speed. And most golfers that come come in here, that's what we're really working on, is trying to get that up higher, because they're not hitting it center, they're not transferring it, they're losing it, they're throwing it, they're doing whatever. The shaft isn't loading, and we'll talk about that as we go. But you're doing pretty good. This number is not where I'm going to be looking to find, Adam, a whole lot of improvement. I may find some, but not a lot.
Okay.
The second part of this is the launch angle. The launch angle is the pitch at which the ball comes off the face, and it's dictated off loft, it's dictated by shaft, it's dictated by your swing. Everybody gets on, you know, they read and they look at forums and they look at magazines and they listen to the radio or whatever, and they go, I got to launch it high and spin it low. That is not true, okay? Everybody's going to have a different launch parameters that they need based on the swing and speed they have, okay? So I always like to say, I'm not going to put you in a hole this minute. Once we start get going, there's an optimizer on here, and I'll start showing you that window. But at 13, you're probably not too far off from being in the right zone. And so this is another number I'm not that concerned about. Okay? But that's what we need to do. And I always like to tell people, if you really want to think about it, think about that garden hose you have at home, and you want to catch the plants to water them across the deck. You kind of have to raise it a little higher to get it to go a little farther, and then at a certain point, same physics with a golf ball. So this is something that's there, but you're kind of okay there. You know, I don't think we're going to be messing with that too much. Here's where I think we have the biggest improvement to come from Adam, and where I think I can not only help bring you in from a dispersion standpoint, but also a distance standpoint, which is your spin rate. The ball always has backspin on it. There is no such thing as side spin. So it's just the axis at which it's spinning backwards. So if it has too much spin, it just keeps flying in the air and it just flutters in the air, and then it'll just fall out. If it has too little spin, it'll be like a knuckleball in baseball. It just wants to knuckle out of the air. It won't carry as far as it should. You have a tendency to spin the ball way too much. In fact, of all those 5 swings, I would say there wasn't one I liked, okay? Now, we'll get the optimizer in there and I'll show you that window, but a player with your speed and ball speed, you're probably going to be more like a 2,500 to 3,000-ish. And so we're going to figure out what causes that. Is it well, we know what your swing causes it, but what can help it? And so it'll most likely be loft of the club with a little bit of center of gravity with the club coupled with the shaft, okay? So these are all the things we're looking at. Now, the one thing, you stay right there. Let me just move the computer here a little bit. The one thing I will say is, now we have a distance. I always tell people, don't get too concerned about any launch monitor you go into indoors. The one thing that it's going to do, it's going to calculate a distance, okay? And so it could be jacked up in a million different ways. I can go to the little settings up here and change it. Our stores are at sea level outside of our Denver store, because that wouldn't be fair. Right. You know, all the rest are at sea level. So it's not going to be quite what you're used to outside, but it's a direct apples to apples comparison. So this is your gamer that we will show everything against. Okay. So what I always tell golfers is no matter where you're at, a Club Champion, any other store where you get fit at, or any other place you get fit at, don't get as focused on the number necessarily right away. Get focused on the gain, right? So at the end of the day, if you're carrying a 236 and all of a sudden I get you carrying a 250, that's 14 yards, okay? That's the point. Right. And then 14 yards is one less club, almost 2 less clubs into the green we're approaching. So that's what we want to focus on. And I'll put total on there as we go, so because I want to see some run out, because right now you aren't getting much run out with your spin number, right. But when we get that number, you're going to not only get better carry, you're going to get better. Okay. And then obviously we'll be paying attention to some dispersion numbers. This was your warm-up. We'll take that out. But we'll be paying attention to dispersion. Once we get more circles in there, it'll be a little bit more interesting. But yeah, like you said, I can see that little draw in there. I can see some of the pushes that happen, and that's what's going to happen. And I think if we get a shaft that just reacts a little bit better with your swing, we'll get that tighter dispersion in there a little bit. And we get that spin cut down so it can't get a little wild, and we'll do that. Okay. Perfect. So here's how it's going to work. You already know you're going to tee it up each time. I'm gonna first start with a Shrixon head, very similar to what you have now, and we're just going to test shafts, okay? And I'm going to have you swing 3 to 4 swings with each shaft. I don't want to waste swings on bad shafts. Sure. Part of a club fitting is I always love when I hear golfers go, well, or I overhear a fitting somewhere else, well, this is what you should have, okay? Well, if it doesn't fit in the first 3 to 4 swings, chances are it's not the right shaft, okay? It's like putting on a shoe and the shoe salesman goes, you know what, it'll stretch. No, you want it to fit when you put it on. So so if I pull you off something, you're gonna hit what we actually end up fitting for a lot, so you'll get an idea. Okay. And if it's not working in the 3 to 4, we don't wanna waste time on it, because we'll go find something that does. And so we'll work on shaft first. The head will stay the same. We'll itemize each shaft in here. They'll all have their different colors, and we'll be able to see the gains between all of them. And then once we have a shaft we agree on, we'll flip the experiment where the shaft stays the same. We'll try some different heads, do the same thing. At the end, we'll button up all the specs, swing weight, length, how we have to dial the head for face angle and weights, and we'll have a final product and we'll be able to show the gains.
Sounds good.
Okay,
All right.
so. Okay, so I've taken away all the shafts. Now, we had fun with you. You're young, you can swing a little bit. So I tried a bunch of stuff just to have a little fun with you. But, you know, we first started with the, we took your head, okay, and we put an adapter in it, and then we just tested shafts on your head. And so to get a nice apples to apples. So this is the average line of your driver right here, and this is what we're going to focus on first. So first thing I tried was an Acra, their new TZ, their 6 shaft. It's a little bit of a lower launching shaft, and so lower spinning shaft, I should say, not really lower launching, because that's not what we want to do. And you can see we got our spin rate down pretty good. We picked up a couple yards of carry, and we picked up almost 9 yards of total. So then I started going through some different ones. We tried a True Temper Hazardous. We tried a Ventus 6 Stiff. And you are pretty easily kind of know what I want to do with weight. Like, I'm not going to go heavy. I'm not going to go light, kind of 60 grams. And unless I saw something really weird as I was going along, I wasn't going to play with weight. I was going to play more with shaft profile. Okay. So how they feel. And really what I wanted to do was get something that was a little bit easier to load in the butt, because you got a nice smooth transition, but something that was, you know, stable in the tip, that was going to help us with some spin and some control. So I tried the True Temper Hazardous Green. It was just a little bit too firm. I took it off the thing, but you saw it when we were hitting it. It just didn't quite do it for us. We tried the Fujikura Ventus, great shaft, same thing. Fujikura Atmos, Mitsubishi Diamante Whiteboard actually wasn't too bad right there. But then all of a sudden we get to a little lesser known brand, TPT, and all of a sudden not only did we have one of our best club head speeds, but we have a great smash factor, our best ball speed of the day, great launch, great spin, great carry, great total. I mean, now we're picking up almost 20 yards worth of distance total, and I mean 10 yards of carry, so it's awesome. And we even tried to kind of play around with some other TPT, because TPT is a very unique shaft. It's a thin ply, high performance golf shaft. They don't really do a traditional, so they do like a 19, a 17, an 18, a 16, and they go all the way down. So we wanted to try, the 18 is kind of like the flex. Yeah. And so they kind of do all these little sub flexes, and we tried the 16, and we tried the 18, and it really didn't work. The 17 was the perfect number. Yeah. Yeah. And so the only thing that I wasn't in love with was when we get over here to your dispersion. Now, your dispersion still looks very similar to what your existing driver is. Although I would say the quality of hit was way better, you're still leaving them out to the right. But you were leaving it out to the right with a lot of the golf shafts. So I finally got to the point where I'm like, okay, if this is our best club head speed, this is our best ball speed, we're at that perfect smash, we got good launch and spin characteristics. At this point, I'm going to kind of do some dialing in with the head instead of the shaft. So what we're going to do is we're now going to take that shaft and we're going to test that shaft on different heads. So now the shaft stays the same, heads differ. So one of the things that was going on with your existing drivers, you had a 10.5 degree head. And then you turn it down, you had the setting when you walked in here at -1. What that does is when you turn the driver down, it actually opens up the face. It's going to want to create a little bit more of a fade, or a push. It'll help with your draw. But I think if we had the right shaft and the right that, we can do that a little bit more efficiently and try to get rid of some of the rights. And if we have anything, we just have that little draw. Yeah, cool. Okay? So we'll do the same experiment. So we now tested a bunch of different drivers, okay? So what we still have up here, and you can't see it at the moment, but we still have your gamer up there. I'll get up there in a minute. And then we have the original shaft fitting, that, and remember how we got to here. And then what we did is we tested a bunch of different shafts on here, or a bunch of different heads. And so we first started with a Callaway Sub-Zero, okay? So that's the Epic Flash Sub-Zero, and so should be a lower launching, lower spinning kind of head for you. But as you can see, it did do that, but it almost was too effective at it. And then we weren't getting the proper carry. We were getting a lot of total, but that's not realistic outside because especially in Illinois here, you're not going to get that much. Maybe in Texas. But then we went to the Cobra F9, another great driver, a little bit lower spinning driver. You had a tough time. You were kind of hitting it high on the face. Yep. For whatever reason, for you just weren't gelling with it, and we weren't getting the numbers. We had a couple, like, lightning in a bottle, but we didn't quite get it. Right. And then we went to the Titleist TS3, which actually you thought was a really clean head, and it had some also lightning in the bottle. But again, you struggled to kind of find that center of that club head, and it seemed like the forgiveness level of it just wasn't quite doing it. So once we got to the M5, though, you started swinging it a little faster. Your ball speed definitely jumped up, as you can see. We got our launch and our spin down, and now all of a sudden, our carry and our total weren't quite like yours. But when I take these away and we look at the dispersion, it was, it was a yard difference, and it was much tighter. So for a yard, we'll make that sacrifice. And I think actually once you started going, this was a lot fresher swings than this. Right. The odds of it is probably even the same or better. But once I eliminate some things from here, and then we tried the Ping G10, which wasn't too bad, and you had some good swings with it. We threw out a couple, so that's not quite as accurate. Yeah. So let me just stay right there. Okay. Let me reorganize the page here a little bit. So if we look at your dispersion now with the 3 drivers, so we started with yours, okay? And then we kept along with the shafts. We had this very common theme of right. The minute we went to the M5, what I did is I took a 9-degree head, M5. I turned it 1 click towards lower, okay? So you can adjust it and take it, and I turned it 1 click just like you did with yours. Right. And then what I did is they have 2 weights, okay? I left the 1 weight forward, okay? And what that's gonna do is help with the low spin property, okay. But it's also gonna make it a little bit harder to hit. So I spread the other weight all the way back in draw. Okay. So what it does is, it first of all gives us a little bit more moment of inertia, MOI. When we put more weight back, it's gonna make it more forgiving, right? If you have more weight back here and you hit it up here, it can't move. So I put that weight back, I put it in the draw because when I go lower to help lower our spin, it wants to go right more. So really, it's just counteracting that, and that's what we did. And then that's what we got. But what we can see is, we can get you another 20 yards of driver, which is 2 less clubs into the green. Right. So you're hitting pitching wedge instead of 8-iron. Yep. And, we got you centered, Yep. Now, what I need to still do is I need to go lock up the final specs on this, and then I'll take you through the final specs. Okay?
Sounds good.
So, Adam, here's our final specs after going through the whole driver, taking it over the machine, specking it all out. What we like to talk about a lot with the golfers is a lot of people come in and get fit, and then they just think they can go anywhere and order a driver. Right. And it really, you have to have a driver built specifically like the club that you were fit with. So, for example, I always tell people, I go, if you get lured into your demo day at your club and you hit something just unbelievable, you want that exact golf club. Don't say, hey, order, put it in my locker, because it will never come, probably. The odds of that are very low. Right. So here at Club Champion, we make sure all our material, everything we do, so everything you're testing on is calibrated with our build shop, and so that whatever we build is going to perform just like it did in the bay. And when we're talking about 20 extra yards and tighter dispersion, that's huge. Yeah. So we got the TaylorMade M5 460 driver, okay, just like we were hitting in the bay. And when we set it up, we're going to set it up 1 click towards lower, so it's going to be about 8¼ degrees aloft when it's finished. Okay. We're going to take the weight I was talking about, the weight track, okay? We're going to take 1 weight, we're going to put it full forward for a little bit lower spinning properties, okay? And then we're going to take the other weight and we're going to put it full draw to help counteract the opening we did here, and also to create a little bit more forgiveness, okay? The shaft we found, remember, was the TPT. So TPT is a cool shaft out of Switzerland. Really cool story there. But they're #1 in like thin ply technology. So it's just a different kind of graphite, different kind of technology. They've been extremely successful in a lot of other industries like sailboat sales and stuff like that. But from a golf shaft, a lot of winning properties. Bryson's won a ton with it. Jason Day, Justin Rose.
Yeah.
And so they have, like we talked, they have a different scale, but you ended up on the 17 with the low kick point shaft, okay?
Okay.
We have your Golf Bride Z cord that you like, okay? And we're gonna make it standard. When I measured you were very standard when you grabbed the grip. There's no real reason to build it up. If we build something up, you're not gonna close it. If you had a huge draw, I may wanna build up the right hand just to slow that down,
okay.
but the fact of the matter is sometimes you don't close it enough, so I'd rather, if anything, err on the side of smaller to keep those hands more active.
Okay.
We are gonna pier the shaft. Have you ever heard of peering?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Okay, so shafts, here's what most people don't realize. They call it spining, okay?
Right.
Shafts don't have spines. Hardly any shaft ever has a spine,
Especially
okay?
that doesn't.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, right.
There's no such thing as a spine, so I always hate that when they hear no spine that they shouldn't peer it. Peering is irregularities in the shaft. So every shaft, if I were to go, I got the different components of making a shaft, but it's just pieces of graphite, which are like pieces of paper that are wrapped around a mandrel, and then it's sanded and painted and all this. And so and it's baked, and there's resins that go in there. And what happens is there's irregularities in the wall thicknesses. There might be a place where there's a void in the material, so some resin gets in there. I call it creates a knot in a tree. And what happens is when you have when it's not pured, it can hit those points and then bend out of plane, and then you don't hit it center.
Okay.
And so what peering does is it finds that principal plane where all the irregularities are out of the way, and then that's how we place it in the shaft so that you get, the perfect playability time and time again.
Got it.
Okay?
Got it. Okay.
45.5 is what I'm going to make you. You're playing a little shorter right now.
Okay.
I have no reason to make you any different. The demo you were hitting was 45.5. Once I got you hitting it center in the face and we were getting consistent results, there's no point in me going any further. I am a believer. There's a lot of people out there that is shorter is better. It could be. We've done plenty of tests, 45, 44, 45, 46. There's no right answer. There's just what's right for you. And there was a couple where I went more like 45 instead of 45.5. And when I landed on that 45.5, I'm like, you're striping it. It's going to give you the most club head speed, which obviously we're not the fastest, so we'll take as much as we can get as long as we're hitting it in the center. And you were. So that's what we're going to do.
All right.
And then one of the big things we're going to talk about is swing weight.
That seems heavy.
It is a little heavy,
Yeah.
and a lot of times you're going to get heavy, and this is where I like to get a little bit more in the weeds. So a lot of people will say, well, your coupling, different things cause heaviness. They do, 100%, and we could counteract it. I could take weights out of here, and I could have done that for you.
Right.
But here's one thing that everybody had to learn at some point in school is force is mass times acceleration. So you want as much mass hitting the ball as doesn't affect your acceleration. So you saw, even as we went, your club head speed actually was getting higher, and your ball speed was getting better. We want a heavier head. That's going to help you hit it farther as long as it's not impeding you. Okay. Not everybody should play a heavier head, so that's not what I want anybody to run around telling, but you also shouldn't be afraid of it. And when you look at the industry, we've gone from heavy heads to light heads back to heavy heads, and then we've done all that. So you should never be afraid of swing weight. It's just what is the right swing weight for you. But like I might have mentioned at the beginning of the fit, swing weight's very important because if we have to get all these components to get to there, and if this is not correct, this shaft plays completely different. This head plays completely different. Okay. It's like I always tell people, I go, if you had a stick and you waved it around, it's really firm, right? Yeah. If I saw the apple in the ground, I stabbed the apple, we'll put it up, now it's really whippy, the stick is. Right. It's the same difference. Golf is a muscle reactionary sport, so everything you give it, it's going to be reacting to. So this golf club makes you swing a certain way. It makes you time it out a certain way. Your muscles reacting to it. So everything that goes into it needs to be perfect. That's how you got that performance. So we want to make sure that gets that performance.
Got it.
Okay?
Okay, perfect.